Didn't get done.
I don't have the ground port agenda. I only have I know, here we are. You want to join the meeting? Okay,
Advocate.
we ready? Everybody ready? Call the 100-297 Grand Board meeting to order at 12:30. Opening prayer, Dwayne, will you lead us, please?
God, our Father, our Creator, we thank you today for all the blessings that you have put in our lives. We thank you for the shelter you gave us, for the food that you provided us. And we also pray to you today to take into consideration all of our students, all of the children in the world, actually, that may they feel confident, may they feel loved, may they all be able to receive educations and have good health care, and that they be looked out for by someone in their lives. I ask you this through your mother, our mother, Mary. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Thank you, Dwayne. Next item is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve? Elmer made the motion to approve and Terry second. Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, roll call.
Elmer,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Dr. Wanda.
Yes. Next item is approval of minutes for 2/12/24. I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll move on this.
Okay, motion by Alan Malatier. Oh, I just lost it here. Alan Malatier to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Terry. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, roll call.
Carrie,
Yes.
Elmer,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Dr. Wanda.
Yes. Next item is approval of accounts payable. For the grant board, I'll ask for a motion to approve the accounts payable. Motion by Terry. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Alan Malatier. Any discussion on the accounts payable?
I just had one, I discussed it with Dr. Martin and Dwayne. Yeah, it's just got payroll on there and it's got $149,000 in expenses, like US Foods not on there or anything, just.
That would probably appear on the district side. These are all the specific grant expenses for, that are included, for payroll and for the non-payroll items.
But I mean, the food, the 197 you guys get for food services, you know.
Yep, they do, and it goes into it actually goes into a Fund 05, and then at the end of the year, the expenditures are actually transferred out as part of the closing. They get allocated to the grant, and whatever is short goes through the general fund.
Okay, thank you.
And then the amount, I don't think we mentioned the amount, but it's $982,060.19. So roll call, Connie.
Okay. Alan,
Yes.
Elmer,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Dr. Wanda.
Yes. No old business. We'll move on to new business. Approval of 2024 senior class graduation, class song, class motto, class colors, class flower, date, time, and location, Giselle, Bondell, Abigail, Desjarlais, Sumi Trotter, and Elon Marslet. They're not here. So do we just move on?
I'll take that.
Okay.
So the senior class has picked out a class song, class model, class colors, class flower, date, time, and location as presented. Class colors will be maroon and gold, class flower, tiger, lily, class song, sign of the times, class motto, our lives are before us, our pasts are behind us, our memories are forever within us. Date, Sunday, May 26, 2024, time 3:00, location, the high school. Recommendation is to approve the request from student council as presented for the upcoming class of 2024 graduation.
Okay, I'll ask for a motion to approve. Motion by Terry, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Elmer. Any discussion on the recommendation of the class colors, et cetera?
May I make a statement?
Sure.
In that class motto, it's got R, A-R-E in there, it should be O-W, O-U-R, yeah.
W. Oh, W.
You get that, Nicole?
Oh.
Our class motto is wrong on there.
In my opinion, anyway.
Second part of the sentence.
Yeah,
Our
should be
So
about
you
that.
already presented it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it said on the agenda 1:15, so,
Oh, it was in the grand board too, it was first on our agenda.
okay. It's 1:15.
It's okay, it's the only, there's just a spelling error. But, okay, so, anything else, Alan?
That is it.
Okay, roll call.
Connie made a correction. It's okay in the minutes and so forth in commentary.
Okay. All right, roll call then, Connie.
Okay. Roll call. Elmer,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Dr. Wanda.
Yes. Next item is endorsement of Turtle Lawn Community High School principal in-house applicant, Levi Gorno.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen of the board, in the packet is the rating sheet for the Turtle Mountain Community High School principal position for your review. The recommendation is to endorse high school principal position. As will be on the agenda to hire today, this item we placed it March 5th. The endorsement is a formality, basically, as you've turned over hiring to the superintendent and HR director. I don't know if I want to use the word formality. We wanted to get the board's input on everything and make sure the board approves of everything at this point. Okay, the funds to hire the position will be high school grant ISEP monies. Recommended action is move to endorse Turtle Mountain Community High School principal position as presented and to hire Mr. Brad LaRock.
Oh.
Motion by Elmer, second by Terry. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Terry,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Elmer,
Yes.
Dr. Wanda.
Yes. Next item is approval of purchase from Pathfinder School of Innovation for $26,535. Brad?
Good afternoon, board members, Ms. President. Pathfinder School of Innovation is essentially Jefferson County. We order our English 12A and 12B off of there. All our seniors take that as an online course. The recommendation is to approve the $26,535 utilizing high school grant Title IV carryover funds.
Okay, motion made by Terry, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Ellen. Any discussion? I do.
So it says the slots are good from September 2nd, 2023 to September 2nd of 2024. Are you already utilizing them and we're just not paying them, or?
Yes.
Okay.
The reason why they do that is because it gives us a chance to enroll our kids next year from, the middle of August to first part of September, then a new bill comes out.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, roll call.
Alan,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Elmer,
Yes.
Dr. Wanda.
Yes. Next, we'll go into reports. First report, Tremont Community High School Student Council, student reps. They'll probably report in the school district meeting then. Superintendent, Dr. Shane Martin.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen of the board, in your packet, you'll see my latest report on what's happening on campus. A lot of it is excerpts from what the board and the district have accomplished. We did a lot during our retreat. We discussed the freshman academy. We discussed the 4-day work week starting in the summer. Narcan, there'll be deliverables and trainings that'll be coming up. Levi will later report on and Connie on the NDSBA agreement and future meetings to break down policy. Graduation was discussed earlier. We did do a web link retraining the past week, fairly well. Annual tribal meeting today went very well. Got to meet with our tribal leaders today, discuss all of our programming, what we're gonna do in the next upcoming school year, as well as future endeavors, construction projects, et cetera. The North Dakota School Board Association Convention scheduled for April 4th to 8th. I know a few of you guys are going. Also the presentation for our national award for the ESSER funding. That's already also been discussed, and we'll be having some board members representing us as well as Levi. I'll let Travis talk about Schoology a bit because I know we have some upcoming training. One of our main things was to get the high school principal in. Thank you for that recommendation. We'll have a master scheduling meeting tomorrow. Hopefully we'll get out our schedules for next year, sooner rather than later. Along that line, we'll also be issuing out our contracts mid-March. So we'll have those out in a timely manner so that we can get our teachers back, highly qualified teachers, so that we don't have to worry about them getting contracts someplace else. And then later on today, we'll be going over the construction projects that are going to be new to us, and some of those that aren't new to us, but we need to have special detail to get them moving. Otherwise, time is money when it comes to construction. And that is all I have for this report. Dr. Pershing.
Thank you. Any questions for Shane? Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to business manager, Dwayne Petra.
Okay, I actually have the monthly financial report attached. Other than that, I don't have anything further at this time.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Dwayne? Now we'll move on to board reports. Want to save them for the district meeting, or Elmer, do you have anything to report in this one?
No, just some of the administration that was at the tribal council meeting today, giving an update, report. Just like to thank them for all the hard work and the effort that they brought forward. And thank you for keeping the council abreast of what's going on in the school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn the grant board meeting then. Motion by
I'll second.
Alan, second by Elmer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned. 12:43, Connie.
Okay, which one is the special meeting? Are we doing the special meeting first?
Special meetings first.
Is this the one for the other?
Special.
Should be 3 items.
Yeah, we're waiting for any student council at this meeting also.
No, they're not on this one. The one after this.
Are you ready for the special meeting?
I'm powering up yet, Ellen.
Dwayne, is there supposed to be an attachment for the freshman academy?
No, I think they're going to be bringing that in.
Okay.
Got it now, sir.
This is 3 items. Sometimes it's notices, sometimes it's permission. I have to legally change it. Especially now that I'm on.
Connie? It's toward beyond.
Changing your name on it.
Whatever they have on it, I'll fix it.
Just like me, that's what I do.
Yeah. Keep it up, keep it up.
I don't know.
Hey, your boss is sitting next to you.
Yeah, no.
God.
Get some coffee there.
One figure, two figures.
Yeah.
Brad, I'll change your name.
Everybody ready? Get on there, Alan?
Yes, I'm ready.
You ready, Francis? Yeah. Okay, you call about this special meeting, school board meeting to order, excuse me, 12:47. We already had our opening prayer. So moving on to item 3, adoption of the agenda. No, excuse me, I'll go back to opening prayer, has to go. Go ahead, would you?
God our Father, we come to you today. We ask for your blessings upon us. We thank you for all the blessings you put in our lives. We ask you today for guidance, as there's going to be much planning today. And we also ask you to watch over all of those that are here today, as well as our students, our staff, and our community. We ask this in the glory of your Son. Glory be to the Father, to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end.
Mr. Swindle, could you lead us with the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, item 3, this time for voting for a motion for adoption of the agenda. Motion made by Wanda, is there a second? I'll second. Second by Dave. Is there any discussion? Not roll call, when you're ready, Connie?
Okay. Dr. Wanda,
Yes.
Ellen S.,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Francis,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Alan.
Yes. Item C, which is old business, which is none, move on to the new business. Item D, there are 3 items. First item is permission to hire Furlong Community High School principal, Mr. Warren.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, in the packet is the rating sheet for the Turtle Mountain Community High School principal position for review. The recommendation is to hire Mr. Brad LaRock as Turtle Mountain Community High School principal, utilizing high school grant ISEP monies effective immediately as presented.
At this time, floor is open for a motion.
I'll move.
Motion made by Dr. Friesian, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Blake. Yajah, is there any discussion? Francis?
No.
Anna? Ellen?
Yes. I have a question on the rating sheet. Interview points are 20 and yet Brad accomplished 25.7. How is that possible?
The rating sheet didn't reconcile, that's on me.
It should be 20 or
It should be 20.
okay.
I'll have to look at the Excel sheet.
I mean, he's good man, but
Yeah.
He's not.
That's probably, maybe it's 5.0, it's probably 5.7.
5.7?
It's probably 5.7.
Well, that was a clarification.
You should have been there and give a hell of an interview, man.
Obviously.
Terry, you have anything?
No, I don't.
Doctor?
No.
Blake, you have anything?
No, I have nothing.
Okay, roll call, you ready, Connie?
Okay, Terry,
Yes.
Francis,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Dr. Wanda,
Yes.
LNS,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Alan.
Yes. Item 2 is approval of purchase from Pathfinder School of Innovation, Sterling Rock. Brad?
Again, Mr. President, board members, in your packet is a recommendation to approve the purchase of Jefferson County e-school slots from the Pathfinder School of Innovation. The amount recommended is $26,535, utilizing high school grant Title IV carryover dollars.
At this time, floor is open for motion.
I'll move.
Motion made by Terry, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Second by Francis Davis. Is there any discussion? Francis?
No.
Anna?
What is it?
Jefferson County e-school slots are what we order for our seniors. They do their English 12A and 12B on it. It fulfills two requirements for us. One, of course, it's their English 12. The other one fulfills under Choice Ready. We have to offer an online course, so it fulfills that too right now.
And is it the English 12 is because we don't have somebody qualified to teach English 12? Or is it just,
Correct.
thank you.
Anything else, Anna? Ellen?
You had previous approval to do this ahead of time? I mean, there was approval given ahead of time to spend this money? Are you in contract with these people, whichever?
Every year we do it. This is just like a renewal of those slots. We've been doing it for probably 5 years.
I'm just kind of wondering why, like Terry said previously, why it was after the fact.
This actually comes to us in early August. She sends it to us. It got missed.
Oh,
That's what I was looking for. Business tech brought it to me and I said, I'll get it on the board and take care of it so we can get it paid.
I assumed that, that's the, okay, thank you. So,
Terry, you have anything?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Blake? No. Roll call, Connie?
Okay, LNS,
yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Dr. Wanda,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Francis,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Alan.
Yes. Item 3 is update on the status of Freshman Academy Generation.
I guess I could start out with, in making some of the introductions that we have. Originally, when we started, it was a learning center, and it's evolving into a freshman academy at this point. The architectural firm that we utilized is EAPC, primarily out of Grand Forks. In addition to that, previous superintendent asked for some specific design assistance, and that came from another firm out of Minneapolis called MSR, excuse me, MSR. But anyways, the lead on this is Mr. Wayne Dietrich from EAPC out of Grand Forks. Maybe I can let you take over from there.
Sure. Well, Paul is from our Bismarck office. He's our project manager, and Mitch Carr is with MSR. And I'm just going to do a couple introductory things here and turn it over to them because they're much more in tune with the design. Today, our goal is to actually present to you where we're at with the design. Because it's been a long time, actually, since we began this process. Actually, November 8th, 2022 is when we had our first meeting. And that was with Meg Meyer Larson and myself. She's with MSR. So we just met with Dwayne and others to just kind of introduce, the design in the building and kind of some of the things that we could create for you from a building perspective. In February of 23, there was a kickoff meeting. And from there was a series of design meetings. We call them schematic design meetings, but one of them was a community engagement March 8th of last year, which I'm sure some of you were involved in. And following that community engagement on the 28th, March 20th, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. And following that meeting, there was a meeting with the board at a schematic design level, showing you the updates of where the design had led to. After that, there was a series of design meetings, April to June 15th, 4 of them actually. Those were team meetings, so they were virtual. And then we got into kind of a halt with your superintendent, Michelle leaving, and then I think you were in the process of finding a new superintendent at the time. We also were entertaining bringing a construction manager onto the project team on a construction management at risk process, but it was maybe too early. I didn't feel comfortable, or I don't know if you guys felt comfortable with that. So then what we did is kind of pull back on that and let the design just kind of continue through a kind of this lull period of time. And then we secured this construction management company, Loeffler, their name is, to do a schematic design estimate, which some of you haven't seen yet, and we're going to show you that today. So, and that brings us, we wanted to have this meeting January 18th, and then of course it's gotten canceled, postponed, so we're here today. And now we want to just show you the designs, talk through it, answer questions. But at the end of the day, we want to kind of have a better direction in where we need to go with this project for you. And I'll leave it at that.
And I believe if I could add to that, right around that January 18th time, we also had a short meeting in your Grand Forks office to where we I believe in discussion with superintendent, we did some moving of the rooms around on the second level to where it was more so to accommodate classrooms rather than administrative offices in a boardroom, and I think that might have been our last contact.
Yep. Yeah. So as we go through this slideshow, you're going to see the plans up to the point of where we had done the estimate. And then there's a few at the end where we'll talk a little bit about some of those changes that I've made. But one thing that I want to just kind of stress is, as Mitch goes through that, is some of the plans that you'll see are not fully accounting for that conversation as yet. So and that's part of the discussion that we want to have is where is this going in direction and things like that. So I think Mitch's got a slideshow pulled up here. So.
And one other thing that come out of that meeting was discovering a little bit more about, is this a facility for experience-based activities or educational-based? So you'll see some answers to that within the presentation here today as well. So
I have a seat over here, Wayne.
yeah, I'll just go over there and stand, and then I'll be out of your guys' way.
Yeah, so thanks for having us. Like Paul and Wayne said, the intent of this presentation is just to kind of walk you all through the state of design and what was estimated at the end of schematic design. It's been a while since we got to be here talking with you. But yeah, as Wayne said, let me go back. Yeah, last time we were here, we had a really great community engagement event. We got a lot of good feedback. We worked with the, let's say like the core project team, Travis and Kevin and Connie and Dwayne and Dr. Thomas. And yeah, a lot of the input, a lot of the reasons the design evolved the way it has is because of the input we got from the community. We always started when Wayne mentioned we've had probably 5 or 6 schematic design meetings. Early on, we worked with the core team to sort of create a project vision that we could always refer back to. So our goal was to always create a beacon of the community, a place for an open-ended, hands-on education and programs inspired by Turtle Mountain community history and culture that promotes the development of 21st century skills. I think Dr. Thomas's kind of aspiration for the project was always very, very forward-looking, very tech-heavy, very much about inspiring a culture of lifelong learning in students. A lot of it also is creating a sense of belonging and pride and creating a multi-generational gathering space. So there's a big, obvious educational component to the building programming, but there was always a focus also on providing community space so that students were learning, they could bring parents, they could bring caregivers, grandparents, and they could share that experience with them. Forgot to swap that picture out, sorry. Yeah, this is just, again, a little review of some of the community engagement feedback we got. We got to meet with 3rd graders, 6th graders, and 9th graders. So the input kind of, ran the gamut of just sort of fun thoughts from the younger kids, more focused thoughts from the seniors and stuff. But, some key points we took away: places to connect and play with extended family, places for adventure and exploration, a strong connection to the outdoors. As we got into the older kids, we started to hear a lot more about the desire to spend quality time with individual family members. Bright, vibrant places. They've mentioned a bedroom, but really what we took away from that was just places that felt like them, that they felt comfortable in. A lot of interesting activities done alone and with friends. So that would suggest a scale of spaces from kind of individual study onto big group spaces. Having a space to calm down, meditate, recenter yourself, and having spaces to express your self-thoughts and ideas. So that really speaks to the creative side of the building program. Just to walk everyone through, we've got sort of a couple sections here. Before we get into the actual floor plans, we wanted to talk a little bit about the specific types of spaces that we're planning the building around, because that's sort of important in understanding how all the building blocks came together. Within the programming, there was the educational and student space component, and there was also, as we mentioned, a big community space component. So starting with the, what's that? Oh, did I? Sorry about that. We are architects, not educators.
Yeah.
So, notoriously bad sellers. So as far as we get into the educational side of things, Smart Lab, and y'all are probably familiar with Smart Lab, working with Kevin and Travis to figure out what the actual curriculum component in this space would be, but there is a dedicated Smart Lab classroom in this space. We'll see where that is located, but this will be a K-12 area with rotating STEM sort of curricula that moves through it. The tech lab space that's in the building was envisioned as a spot where there might be professional grade computer workstations where kids could explore graphic design softwares, really just anything that they would need a lot of computing power for. Adjacent to those tech labs, we had an area called the tech bench. We went back and forth a lot. Kevin's office was kind of down there, and this was supposed to be kind of the spot where the school district could receive new hardware components, do all the assembly for that, but the team started to play around with this idea that maybe part of that could be public facing too, or student facing. So Kevin is building a bunch of laptops, the kids could actually come in and maybe help with that and get some hands-on experience just building tech. A part of this also, we had this sort of public facing, so that this might be also the spot where, if there are VR headsets in the building, or, members of the community want to come in and use the space, this could be where they could come in and actually check out some equipment to use while they're there, maybe while their kids are taking a weekend workshop or something, older brothers and sisters could hang out, or parents, and they could use equipment as well. Getting into like the more social side of the educational stuff, just like the student tech lounge, we really started to talk about like e-gaming and esports a lot at the end of schematic design. This would be areas where kids can come, and this gets into like the creation of the third space too. So like how the building functions as an after-school gathering space, how it functions on the weekends, just making sure that there's activities that kids are really excited about, wanting to come to the space to use. So providing gaming stations or VR areas that they can come and experience some stuff they might not be able to access at home. The creation room was a smaller space that was planned to be outfitted with a sound mixing board. We talked about this being a space for kids to come in, record music, record a podcast. This could also be a spot where members of the community could come and use to record oral histories or anything that people just wanted access to a really high-end suite of like AV equipment. And this was kind of up in the air when we were still planning, if here's an image of just standard sound mixing boards. It could also be a space that has some green screens. We talked a lot about like content creation for kids, like cycle around the green screen spot where they can come make social media content and play around and learn that way. So what that room kind of finally becomes, we probably dig into more in design development. And then there is a large makerspace component, and one side of that is digital fabrication, then the other side of that is just more traditional crafting and fabricating that way. But this would be a cool room that would just be outfitted with a range of equipment. Down here you can see like 3D printers, maybe a small scale CNC machine, tabletop laser cutters. And this could be a spot where kids could really, get in, take the stuff that they've maybe programmed on the computer in the tech lab, plug it into a printer and start to see that stuff built in real time. The other component of that, like I said, might be a craft fabrication lab. So this could be where kids can play and just learn, or just really explore more traditional crafts and making art. And those two pieces of programming really segue nicely with one another. And we envision this space, the whole kind of suite of maker spaces being open to the community as well. So during the school day, it might be something where kids have active curriculum in there. Maybe Thursday night, there's a community workshop where people can come use the printers and that sort of thing. And then just to get at that private kind of focus space, spots for individuals or small groups of students to get together, just study what they've got for homework that night. And a lot of this is just giving kids the space in this building to stay here and use it more than just as like a piece of core curriculum. So if they're done taking their class, they can continue to hang out in the building, use the study room for the rest of their homework, or prepare for something else they want to do in the building. Aside from the educational components, there was a pretty heavy community programming component. And when we get to the floor plans, these are mostly just open kind of mixed use type spaces that could be really flexible. So the main thing was a big gathering component. We heard pretty clearly. We presented a floor plan originally that did not have as much like open flexible space. And we heard from the core team that just making sure that there was adequate room for the community to come together was really important. And I think we saw probably a proof of concept in that a little bit at the community engagement event that was out there in the gymnasium. That would be a space you could do something like that. So if I don't know who was at that or not, but you might remember like the big screen with the VR headset on it and things. This would be a spot where like 150 or 300 people could gather. We refer to it sort of as the digital roundhouse. So just a spot where everyone can come in. This is sort of a range of activities could happen, just gatherings, presentations in the round. You probably have spaces that can do this, but what would be unique about this building would be sort of the high-end AV component to it. So this would be a great spot where you could have a community event, and due to the audio-visual suite in the building, that could be sent out to Zoom to members of the community who couldn't be in Belcourt that night or who live elsewhere. So the building is a way to bring kind of everyone in for these big kind of meetings in the round. Obviously, it could be just a fun spot where you could have just more laid-back community events. Again, we were talking a lot about esports, giving students who aren't necessarily traditional athletes a place to come and compete. we talked a lot about this large community gathering space being able to do kind of like a full-blown esports event, and that would be really cool because the students themselves could sort of set that up and run it. So the production of the whole thing, the audio visual mixing, and sort of the presentation could be basically a student-run event, probably with the help of Kevin and Travis. But the hope was that that could be a really good learning opportunity as well. Just a lounge space, this gets at the idea of creating a community third space. So just making sure there's spots for parents or an older brother or sister or a grandparent or anyone who's a caretaker. If they brought a student for a weekend event or they brought them for just like an hour or so to engage with some of the educational curricula, a spot for that person to sit and be comfortable. So just some lounge seating, some nice views to the outdoors. And again, the idea is that hopefully as the students are using this space and they're getting into the equipment, they can share that stuff with the people that are bringing them. There's just a multi-generational mixing, multi-generational educating that happens. Food sharing, is a big part of gathering. It's probably not like a full-blown kitchen like is shown here, but just a spot where if there's a big 300-person event, somewhere around that lounge, there's adequate space to lay out food and drinks that people can make themselves at home. There was a family area, a family area planned. And again, we just know that families have young kids, they've got school-age kids, they might have kids in college. So just to the end of making sure the place could be a building that accommodated the entire family, a zone somewhere kind of adjacent to the lounge where if there are young students or really young kids, there's a place to keep them occupied. This might be more kind of tactile tech activities, motor skill development, and things to keep just young kids busy while their older siblings engage in the programming in the building. And then just some wellness spaces. We've heard from students that it's very important for them to have a place to sort of recenter, unwind, kind of calm down if they need to. So spaces within the building that allow, a student or a parent to just sort of pull out of the commotion and sort of recenter if they need to. So that's the building components. I might actually just stand up and see if I can do this, but this is the first floor of the building, and hopefully this is all big enough text that you all can read it okay. For context, the high school is up here, and this would be sort of the open parking lot area. And there is actually some site slides that come after this. So if this is just, in fact, I'm just gonna jump forward. Just so we know where it is, right? So this is Braves Avenue here. Braves Avenue, the high school parking lot up here, this sort of rectangle in there. Oh, yeah, I'm too close. I'll back up. This sort of zone is the building, so we'll back up to the plans in a second, but for context, plan north on those previous slides is looking up that way. So the building on the north end of the site, more adjacent to where the high school and middle school are, so students arriving by foot don't have to walk all the way around. And then parking lot at the southeast side of the site so that people arriving from the community can come and park as well. And actually, I'll stay here for a second too. I think we've heard pretty loud and clear that the site development is probably a little bit more intense than is desired. And we would agree based on where the pricing is. There's a couple elements that are pretty important though. One is the need to create an entry process into the building that could be entered from the north and the south. Again, students that are walking in from the high school or the middle school, we want to be able to get them into the building as soon as possible. Then obviously making sure that people arriving by car have a space to get into the building from the south too. And that would probably be adjacent to some sort of drop-off zone for buses or small shuttles or even just parents dropping and picking kids up. And then we also, probably halfway through schematic design, we heard from the team that we really wanted to have an outdoor meeting space, like a talking circle. So that has started to be located on the south side of the building so that it gets as much sunlight as possible, daylight to keep it warm. And then in the most recent floor plans, the building itself sort of shelters the north side to try to block some of the winds that come in as you get into fall and kind of early spring. So locating that so that the outdoor use is extended seasonally. as much as possible. I'll back up real quick to the building plans. So this is the first floor, again.
So one thing that I want to reiterate here, like I said, these are the plans that were developed with input from the team and everyone here. So what was mentioned earlier, the new idea of going to this freshman center is not incorporated in these, although we do have some slides later on where we start talking about that. So as you look at these plans, please keep that in mind.
Yeah, so again, you can see kind of two south entries. The idea would be that students, families can kind of come in, gather right in the middle. Generally, the building was organized with the denser programs, so your classroom spaces, mechanical spaces, restrooms, and things up to the north, so that you've got sort of a more solid programming, kind of blocking that north wind. This, it's going to get heat with in the winter. And then generally the more open spaces along the south with a lot of glazing windows to give people good views, to let in a lot of that sunlight in the wintertime and make it a really bright, warm, inviting space. I think I'm trying to think of the term Michelle used. She talked about having summer all the time in the space, I think is what she said. So that was sort of the impetus behind having all the kind of large flexible space facing south. The green in this diagram is generally the educational programming. Technically, the makerspace could probably be colored green as well, but since that is open to the community, it's blue in this. And then gray is just your support functions and bathrooms. So, coming into the building from the north, the smart lab would be right there. This is a big enough entry where, if there was a class coming in, they could kind of pool and collect in there. Someone could grab them, take them into the smart lab. Adjacent to that was the tech bench space, so that was where all the high-end computing, the making of computers and things might happen. And that was actually planned to have a partition that could open up, so you could kind of combine both those classroom educational spaces into one bigger sort of flexible space if you wanted to. This darker green was a collection of, this was an office slated to be Kevin's. He would have some ability to see what's going on in the entries, room to assemble and build things as well. This would have been the recording studio, so it wants to have kind of a highly functional shell acoustically and light control wise. So it was sort of back in this zone with a little airlock. And this was a spot that could be, in the event that you were having a big community event, a touchdown point for a school district administrator or someone to kind of welcome people and orient them in the space. And that would be where someone could check in, and if they wanted to borrow some equipment or a laptop or something, they could check in there, and there'd be a storage area that they could pull that from. Just mechanical space and restrooms up here. The maker space in this area. Right here in this blue zone, this was actually exterior with a roof covering over it, and this was that exterior talking circle element. And the maker space itself would be able to open up into that, so if students were building, there's a workshop on a weekend or something, and students built and fabricated a bunch of stuff. They could then wheel that out to the exterior and have sort of like an outdoor presentation mode or something. Also adjacent to that would have been the family zone. So if it's a nice day, you could open some doors up, and kids could have kind of been running out on this area of the site, which would have been developed as just sort of the natural site. Kind of between the family zone and the main community gathering area, that little roundhouse was just the lounge. So some area to lay out food, and some area for people to just sort of rest while maybe they have a student partaking in some sort of activity. The second floor of the space was pretty open. Those two big community spaces were big double-story heights between them, sort of above that lounge. Was just a mezzanine seating area where just kind of same functionality as the lounge below, but maybe a spot where parents or someone could kind of sit up top and kind of monitor what the kids are doing. This area we also talked about being used in the event that there was like an esports or something convention happening in that main area. This could be where kids could set up sort of the production booth. So if the event was happening down here, students sort of running the show for what was going on downstairs. We did have a pretty heavy admin component to the program, like a workroom, IT director, superintendent's office was up there, and then a dedicated boardroom space was up there as well. On the other side of that, above where the smart lab was and the tech bench, these were sort of the more social student spaces. So like a student gaming, student AR, VR area here, so that might be like that image of like the 3 VR screens and stuff, spot kids kind of hang out. And then the tech mezzanine might be sort of more like, it might be more like the tech bench was below, but more geared towards kind of social, just kind of self-discovery of using computers and the programming that's on them. These, I don't know if they're super helpful, but just some 3D views of what those were, so you can see sort of that, that north entry here, and that was actually a lower entry. You'll probably are familiar with the site on the north side. It's pretty steep as you go down to the high school, so you would actually enter lower on the north side, come up into the main space. You can see that smart lab and the tech labs, sort of the admin zones in the middle here, and then just that big open bar of the open-ended kind of communities flex space. And then up top, again, seating area above that community lounge, more admin heavy spaces towards the back, and just the suite of social student spaces up top. So, this was all open, thinking about views into that space from some of the admin offices. The goal here is to give students a space that feels kind of private, kind of like the student club area, but still, have views into it to make sure everything's going good up there.
Those kind of cubicles there on the south side, or what is that?
Like study rooms.
Study room?
Yeah, so those, there would be some study spaces associated with this. There were a few up here. And these could be spots where like students could study, or, if you're bringing a kid in and you're taking a class yourself or something, you could pop into one of those things, or make a phone call, whatever you need to do.
And how many are there?
Study rooms? These were sort of open study carrels as well. So I'd say there's about 3 here, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then these are in that admin zone. This room might not be used so much, but these two would be pretty valuable study rooms. So about 11, 10 or 11 all told.
Are those out front glassed areas, or?
Yeah, these ones down low?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the building, basically what you're seeing all around the perimeter up until the north side was glazed. There's some components that are solid across the south just to make sure there's not too harsh of light coming in. But the big exposures we wanted were kind of at this corner, so that as you're coming in, you'd be coming out the highway, coming up Graves this way. So just making sure that as you're driving in towards the high school, you can see into the building and see all the activity that's happening. That's why this is all glass wall. Back towards where the talking circle was and where you just have the natural sight, there's a lot of windows back there too, just to give you the connection to that nature and the tree line, and there's the little water control feature slough back there as well. And then the north side is mostly opaque, again, just to try to cut back on the amount of openings. We did plan to burn the site up on that north side too, and plant some trees just to try to shelter it from a lot of those harsh winter winds.
So is that hill gonna be taken down?
On the north side of the site,
Yeah.
it would be regraded a little bit. The building would actually be kind of sunk down into it halfway. And then some of the cut that we'd have to do from doing that, we were actually gonna bring around the corner to add to that hill. So we probably have I brought the drawings, we could pull those up to explain a little bit better. But basically it's a mix between sinking the building down. You'd have to cut into this a little, and then that cut from the dirt to make sure it's not needing to be hauled off the site would be redistributed up on the north side to shelter the building a little bit more.
When your high school was built, that practice field was kind of established at that point. So there's some soil correction that will probably need to be done for this building because of compaction for footings and things.
With that little kind of like where you're talking about the hill, and then when you go to the north of it, there's that little ravine area. I don't know if it looks like it's dried up. Are you filling that in?
No, that would be the
Yeah.
wetland. that-
Yep.
Is it
So
still?
that area would be just
Where's
to,
that?
Are you
Okay,
yeah,
I see.
Yep.
talking in this area?
Yes.
Yeah, that would, so That would still
I
be
think it's a
there.
little closer, though,
What's that?
where that putting field is, that little putting green.
Yeah, that's on the other side.
That's on the other
Oh,
side?
yeah.
Okay,
Way on the,
okay.
be way on the east.
So yeah, this was, and are there any more questions about the floor plan?
What type of glass are you installing? What type of glass is in the plants?
The glass, we had a pretty, high tech isn't the right word, but it's a somewhat tinted glass. It's not so dark that it's gonna just look like black from the outside, because we want people to be seeing what's going on. But the glass that we specified, which is probably part of the reason that it's an expensive specification, has a coating on the interior also to help with reflecting heat from the inside of the building back into the space. So very well insulated, much better insulated than typical glass systems would generally be. And the building systems, as we sort of design them or select them for this schematic design pricing, are generally all insulated, much better than code. So the idea was, and directive was to look into giving the community a building that represented the lowest possible cost of running into the future. So that means super insulating.
So the glass wouldn't be conducive to solar, passive solar?
No, it would. Well, it would be part of having the building orientation the way it is that we would be able to admit, a lot of sunlight during, like noon and on, and there would be heat gain from it. It's not like it's gonna bounce all that back, and that would actually be a good thing most of the year. We put in operable vents too in the glazing, so people would, and that just means windows that you can open. People would have the ability to open up windows and bring air into the space as well. So making sure that we're getting good heat gain passively from glazing when we want it, but also making sure that in the summertime, we're not just filling the space with a lot of glare and too much direct light was sort of the balance.
My question was kind of like protective wise.
Oh, as far as like the durability of it?
Yes.
With regards to that, it's not going to be, I guess, any better or more resilient than just any sort of glazing would be.
You live in a glass house, you must rocks.
Yeah,
Especially not in the school.
yeah. Yeah, we hadn't talked about that as a big consideration. Just, are you thinking more of like, just incidental damage or people breaking in type of thing?
No, like,
Vandalism?
yeah, kind of like protective for the students inside.
Sure.
Like the building itself.
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that as a team. If we need to look at that, there's specifications for glazing that would be like more impact resistant, or it could be laminated so they don't fall apart if it breaks. Just like the insulative specification for it though, it would be a balance between just the functionality and the cost and the budget.
So within EOPC, we have a group of people that are certified in CEPTED, and that means crime prevention through environmental design. We'll have them take a look at that and have them provide some feedback on it. But one of the concepts within that CEPTED is the idea of natural surveillance. And the idea is that if you're putting people where you can see other people, the likelihood of something happening is much less. So that's part of having some open. In addition to everything that Mitch said, if Kevin's at his desk and he can see people approaching from anywhere on this or around this building, that's helpful just in and of itself. Of knowing that will help reduce incidents.
Can you go back to the outdoor or the whole land one? I was just curious about so it's on, there's a walkway, that's where they would enter, is up on that top
Yeah,
lot.
right up here. So
And
the
that's-
sidewalks coming from the high school are this series of lines here. So it's sort of lined up right on that right on that line of all those sidewalks, would be sort of right where the north entry to the building would be.
And where's that basketball court at? Is that behind that gray line?
I guess I don't know. Where
The basketball court is on the opposite side.
Okay. Yeah, so I was wondering. Okay.
Across the road where they got put that garage, that garage outdoor classroom.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. I was trying to get context.
Sure, this is on the south side.
Directionally.
And so maybe to help with context a little bit. This right here is the highway. And right now, like where all the green is, there are a bunch of trees currently planted there.
See the highway, graves, where all these closely spaced lines are, that's sort of the north side of the site where that kind of steeper hill is. And then where it's more gentle is where the access into the parking lot would be.
So you're saying that the steeper hill would be cut out?
Yeah, it's like right here, and then this would be sort of cut out. The walkway would slope up, because it would be a ramp. We don't want it to be that steep, but it would be sloped, sort of the maximum slope we can do without considering it a ramp. Again, just because we're trying to use the building as a way to navigate this point, which is, from what we can tell from our survey, is about maybe about 9 or 10 feet below what the natural point of the site up here is.
So is that like, I mean, it's like a mini, what do you call those outdoor? You know, the steps? No, like the, not the stage, but like the
Oh,
floor.
like an amphitheater
Yeah,
type
like a
thing?
mini amphitheater, is that?
This part, so this isn't, I mean, that could certainly have a component like that. We did, if we go back to the plan, so you can see coming in from that north side to get up into the rest of the building is a series of stairs and some bigger platform-like amphitheater-ish steps. So if a class came in, there's also some bathrooms right through this corridor here. If a class came in, they were waiting for a teacher, someone to meet them, or waiting for whoever was gonna get them into the smart lab to start a lesson. The kids could kind of hang out there, they could sit on the steps. The smart lab, it's kind of hard to see. The classroom that we wanted the smart lab to go in actually has a pair of those larger steps as well.
I was thinking of outside, like
Oh,
more
yeah.
natural sort of outdoor.
Right now, there's just like some retaining walls that would step back, but we could definitely look into that and just carve into the, I guess the hill, and do something like that.
Yeah.
This is just sort of a 3D view of what it was, the site design wise, the idea that that front entry element to the building, you'd see in that previous plan, there was a pretty heavily developed kind of concrete area that crossed through the bus drop here. And that was just trying to make sort of an entry plaza, a nice arrival moment for the whole site. And we've since heard that just making sure the site is really functional as far as maintenance and snow removal might take precedent over that. Also, just the way the budget stands, I think we would agree that prioritizing the building and the programming in there is more important than really overdeveloping the site. But this was the sort of design logic towards that big kind of concrete, nicely paved area in the center there. And these views are, they're maybe from our fourth design meeting, so they're not fully up to date, but this was just the quality of that exterior talking circle area. So again, the roof would actually cover it. This area faces south, so you get really nice daylight in there, be a really nice warm sunny space. And then the bulk of the building behind it in trees and planting. And we don't have the site actually modeled, but the site would be burned behind this would actually protect that space from wind a lot too. So again, the idea that that space gets opened up, probably not a full 3-season use, but at least like half the year be able to use that outdoor area. So this would be a view kind of from the parking lot looking in at it. This would be a view right behind you would be all the stormwater sloughs and sort of the valley area of the site. You'd be seeing here the makerspace area, and then the family children's area right on the other side of that glass. This is just a more zoomed in version of the site talking about what the planting strategies would be. So again, we'll be, right now all the stormwater for the parking lots from the high school and everywhere is managed in these features. We'd basically be connecting to them. So the idea with this was that within the parking lot, there would be some swales, that could do natural filtration. The goal here would be to sort of catch all the runoff from the building roof, from the parking lots, be able to filter it through natural vegetation before it gets reintroduced back into the ground. Is there anything there's some slides just talking about the general quality we wanted to develop in the building. Before we jump into that, are there any other questions about the way the floor plan was or the building programming or the way it was organized? Just moving into the way the space actually gets executed and designed and the interior finishes. It's big to us to make sure it feels like a building of this community. So we were doing a lot of kind of inventories of just natural environment, Turtle Mountain Reservation area itself. So just looking at like flora and fauna, just the trees and textures of barks that are in the area. Fish scales. You'll generally see sort of the natural inspiration up top and then some building materials on the bottom that we thought sort of evoked the same feelings as some of these things in the ecology. Animals, just the texture of fur. Getting into just plants, flowering. And then also wanting to make sure that there was, evidence of craft and traditions that are more personal to this community as well. The idea of some of the quill work and just kind of we wanted to make sure that the interior finishes started to evoke that sort of feeling as well. You're trying to find materials that are not necessarily, quill work, but things that evoke the same sort of textures and densities of just pattern as that sort of art. One thing that we did talk a lot about was wanting to make sure that there were opportunities for really good, robust community partnerships in the building. We were in the schematic design phase. The next phase would have been design development, and then finally we actually built the building and implement everything. So when we were in schematic design, we were trying to find components of the building that would be really good opportunities to collaborate directly with maybe local artists and craftspeople. In the DD phase, we would actually want to work with them to generate some art and find a way to implement it into the building as more than just a wall in the building where you can hang up art. Really, when we're talking building integrated, we're talking about really like a permanent piece of the building. So one example we used a lot was the American Indian Center in Minneapolis. When they were designing this, they worked with George Morrison to make a mural, and then they reinterpreted that mural together as actually part of the wood cladding that went on the building. So you have this process of taking actual art specific to the place, integrating it into a facade, and then the built product is here. And this is a permanent piece of this building that's been there for 60 years now.
No more. Is it brand new?
Yeah, they remodeled it. And then these are just examples of spaces that we feel like have some of the textures, selective art, the idea of the rhythm of the structure and stuff, evoking some of that. The quill work, the patterns of light and dark, allowing opportunities for daylight to create experiences like that. And just the layering, of like the birch bark, just being able to texture building. So these are just sort of examples of how we were going to develop some of the facades, the interiors palette as we got into design development. A lot of it's not really implemented yet, but this was the direction we were starting to go as far as thinking about materiality. That's sort of the overview of where the design stands at the time. We did, I think Wayne mentioned it was kind of hard to get an estimator on board. Took a while. We were finally able to do that and get the project estimated. The budget is higher than we expected it to be. It just is a way of reviewing that. Wanted to just, I guess, provide like a glossary of how the project costs break down. So within the overall project cost of this building, project cost is inclusive of everything, right? It's the cost to actually build the building, it's the professional services fees, it's the fees for your contractor, it's your permitting, it's all the furniture that has to go in the building, all the equipment you want to buy to put in the building, all of your contingencies and so on. Within that, the major buckets are up here just so that we, hopefully it makes sense how we talk about the project cost here in the next couple slides. So again, construction costs, that's the literal cost of the building construction, the cost to develop and improve the site. Design and construction contingencies are in there. So we always have a pot of money that's X percentage of the construction costs just in place to handle surprises basically during construction. The general contractor's profits, their insurance, the fees they have to pay in there, and then also just escalation. We know that we're not purchasing this material. Right now, we're purchasing it in a year and a half, a year. So we have to plan for that as well. FF&E is furniture, fixtures, and equipment. This covers the actual furniture that you would put in the building. This covers any of the AV, IT equipment that the building would want to have to support curriculum and programming. Any additional equipment for admin use like printers, that sort of thing. Covers the building signage, and then any sort of exhibits and art you want to put in there, as well as a contingency for this time. Soft costs are considered the architecture and engineering fees, any fees you have to pay to get the building surveys and geotechnical figured out, special inspections, cost to move in. Sometimes we see an owner have a planning contingency in here as well. And then the final additional costs are just the overall project contingency and the tarot fees, which would apply to this project. So right now, the construction cost, the way these slides work is these three numbers that are a little bit lighter gray, they sum up to this. So this is the main number to keep in mind. This is just giving more context about the different portions of the construction costs. So the budget as it came in, the building is designed, the construction costs were about 17.2 million. The building at that point was about 19,000 square feet. So direct costs associated with the building were about 2.6 million. The site was about 1.5 million. And the other in this, what the other means is the general contractor's fees, their markup and profits, the design contingency, the construction contingency, permitting, all of those things. So that's a significant portion of the overall construction cost. FF&E total, this includes all the audiovisual equipment. The original audiovisual package that was developed for the building, I believe it came to about 1.2 million. And the rest of this would be composed of the cost for furniture and other sort of admin equipment in the space. Soft cost totals are generally the professional services fees, and then additional costs are the overall project contingencies and tarot. So at the end of schematic design, the total project cost came in at about 22.5 million, which was, I think, probably much higher than we anticipated it to be, and clearly higher than it can be. What we've done is try to identify, after talking with Dwayne, a route to the $15 million overall project cost, and then at the high end, a $20 million project cost. What we don't know is what we necessarily need to be targeting just yet. There's a pathway to either one, there's a pathway to less than this if it needs to be less. But for now, on these two slides, we've generally illustrated a $15 million and a $20 million project. To get down to 15 million, what it would mean is trying to cut out about 30% of the construction costs. A big chunk of that would be in trying to reduce the site costs by about 50%, and then trying to reduce the actual building construction costs by 20%. It would be kind of hard to do 20% just in reducing like the quality of finishes and things. Even some of the building assemblies, you know, how insulated it is, how we build the framing, how I build the roof, and so on. We think to get that level of reduction, we probably need to look at reducing square footage. So what this would assume is that the building also shrinks by about 5,000 square feet. So the sum of all those changes would equate to an overall construction cost reduction of about 30%. This FF&E total, most of this 25% reduction is coming out of the AE budget, so that would be reducing it from that $1.2 million that was in the original schematic estimate. And these soft costs and the additional costs, they're basically just percentages of the overall project. So as all this stuff goes down, these numbers go down too. And the total outcome of this would be about 15.4 million. And there are a couple diagrams coming up at the end of these slides that show maybe what that looks like for the building floor plan as well. To get the project down to the 20 million point, it's a more reasonable construction cost deduction. We're in the range here, trying to get 10% out of the actual building costs where we could probably do that, mostly through just selecting different materials. The edits would be a lot less noticeable at that level. We would also still probably try to reduce about 1,500 square feet out of the total building footprint as well. So there would be a little bit of evaluating and programming. It sounds like that's going to be part of the process anyway, so it'll be a good opportunity to look at how to be efficient with the space and cut out anything that doesn't seem 100% critical. FF&E, a much more modest reduction there, just by 10%, and then these would reduce accordingly. And the project cost would come down to about 19.5 million. We don't really know we don't have proposals necessarily for how the building cost reductions work at this point. I think we sort of need to understand the target overall project cost before we can really dig into that and start to make educated and thoughtful proposals for that. So a couple diagrams of what this could look like. I think we shared this one with Dwayne, and I'm not sure how far it's made its way around. This is the second floor of the building. This also gets at we've been told we need to get some additional classroom space at the expense of some of the admin areas, so the boardroom, some of the admin offices. One quick thing we looked at doing was just infilling the area above the makerspace. We could easily get about an 820 square foot classroom in there. That boardroom area is about 960 square feet, so that's a classroom size space. What would happen to all of this area that used to be admin workroom, admin offices, study rooms? We'd have to take a look at that based on what the programming has evolved to. But this would be big enough to get another dedicated classroom space in and still have room for some restrooms up top and that sort of thing. This would be, however, just infilling an open area is technically creating more square footage. So it is sort of moving things maybe in the wrong direction as far as cutting the square footage needed to get down into the $15 to $20 million project range. These, I'll try to explain these. Stop me at any point if they don't make sense because they're just markups over the original plans. But the next two drawings here would be modifying the floor plans we just showed you in an effort to try to economize program, try to find pieces of programming that look like they could overlap, and also cut out some square footage. So what this one is showing, this sort of pink line that's here, was generally the extent of that family play area. What this diagram would propose is that the glass wall that was right here would actually move back to this, and that would cut out about 1,000 square feet. This isn't suggesting that we would want to necessarily lose the family programming component all told. It would just be about taking the remaining open community space, creating some smaller zones within that to still get that functionality, but maybe have it at a little bit smaller scale. That would also just generally enlarge that outdoor area. And this might be a nice piece of building element that starts to support like the food and gathering component. And it could be double-sided so that you now have kind of similar sized events inside and outside with some sort of common building bar supporting that with, a kitchenette and storage and that sort of thing. All this stuff just sort of flip-flops to support what was going on up top. The main move is that the makerspace would no longer be on the bottom floor here. It would actually move up to the top. Otherwise, this is just a reshuffling of some of the back of house spaces. So the mechanical, the restrooms, electrical and trash rooms, that sort of thing, just reconfigure a little bit. So the second level, what would happen is a lot of that, the admin room was all the way out to here. Basically, this whole area of building footprint could be reduced. This would be the roof of some of that mechanical storage area. You could actually do that in a way that's occupiable. So the makerspace could have, it used to be down here with direct access to the ground floor outdoor space. We basically could, through the grading, bring the grade up, and that makerspace on the second level still could have direct outdoor access, so it could be an indoor-outdoor classroom component as well. Restrooms could move back. This is a much smaller area. That previous diagram had about 1,500 square feet of just unassigned square footage. This would be much more efficient to repurpose. In the area up top where we had the tech mezzanine and some of the student just social spaces, a lot of that could still happen. Instead of having 2 classrooms over here, we could actually move them, infill above one of the open areas there, and just have more dense student classroom programming. We'd love to see this done in a way where these can be, just kind of traditional CTE style classrooms during the week. But maybe on the ceilings, they've got like a pipe grid that can support lighting and speakers and stuff, so that if they're traditional classrooms during the week, on weekends, they can morph into more AD focused spaces where kids can come and do that, that creation room kind of programming, the green screen stuff, audio, visual recording, that sort of thing. And then outside could still be a pretty, like loose social area for kids. They could be up on a balcony looking over the common space. They could pop in and out of classrooms whenever they need to. And there would be an option, we still could have that second level seating area that looks out over the community areas. If we really need to continue to cut square footage and costs, that would be a fairly easy component. Once we know a little bit more about what pricing would come to cut out if it was required. So the level 1 square footage reduction was about 1,000 square feet. If we chose to get rid of the mezzanine, that would be about 1,100 square feet. And then the reconfiguring of all this to pull the building envelope back this way on the second level would cut about 1,700 square feet for a total of like 3,800 square feet of reduction, which would put us somewhere between where we wanted to be in that $15 and $20 million project budget range. And again, these are very rough diagrams. I think there's a larger conversation about just what the general programming in the building wants to be now. So none of this should be considered, I guess, like an actual proposal. It's just sort of to demonstrate that there are good paths forward for the project to make the cost reductions that we need to make. Do you guys have any? So schedule-wise, assuming that we can have a good conversation after this and sort of identify where we need to be at project budget-wise, identify what programming changes need to be made. And they don't need to be things that are decided in this room. We've sort of slated 3 weeks to sort of get all that recompiled, kind of take inventory of where we are, identify the changes that need to be made, and sort of set the new direction for the project. We've allowed about 3 weeks, basically through March for that. And then what we would propose is picking up the project schedule, same durations as previously, but we would start design development with the new concept design. I think part of this alignment would be to take all the input from you all in the community, the new directives for changes. We would want to work up, I think, sort of a plan diagram that shows those changes as like a proof of concept. So might be like a mini schematic design phase. But once we were able to review that with you all and get it signed off on, we move into design development. That would take about 2 months and take us all the way through May. We would want to do another pricing set just because of how volatile pricing is. We would not want to move into construction documentation without doing another double check on the project costs. That'd probably take about a month and would happen during June. Construction documents is basically just us putting together the specifications and the drawings to build the project. And that'd take about 2 to 3 months, take us all the way through September. So this is all with the goal of being able to start bidding, by fall or winter, and be able to start construction next year as early as possible. So the next steps to get into that alignment phase would really be identifying what the target project budget needs to be so we can make corrections and start to actually investigate ways of making that happen. talk with you all about what the project programming changes need to be. And then we want to know, just based on the changes to the project team, are there changes to the core team? Are the decisions in the meetings, is it still basically going to be the core team that we had communicated with previously? Or do we want to plan on more exposure to the school board and present to you all more often? And we're happy to handle it either way. We just want to hear what you all think about it. And I think that's all that we had. So I can flip back to any of those slides. We also have all of our old schematic design presentations, the drawings that we issued. So if there's information you didn't see in here that you'd like to see or have a conversation about, we can probably pull it up.
What do we have in the AED for fees right now? Since we started off with the Discovery Center.
I would say a little over 300,000.
That's about what I remember.
And our goal was to complete a schematic design package, but as you can see, there's a lot more probably detail here than the schematic design. So we've gotten into the design development a little bit, but I think that was in order to get a very solid estimate at this point from the construction manager Lockwood.
That's kind of sad we waited 2 years, for the next meeting. There's going to be a Discovery Center, but now on the building, you showed like the inside, the outside, is that going to be a flat roof or is that a pitch?
It's a little bit of a combination right now. A portion of it slopes up and a portion of it's flat. So right now, the portion of it that's back over the exterior area and where the family area is flat, and then it slopes up as it goes to the west to get some more light and daylight and views in from there.
Was it a past experience? We've had a lot of problems with a flat roof in this area.
Okay.
And in some of the value engineering, if we need to do that, to bring the project into budget, might change the way we build that.
I think it probably will. The project right now is planning on being kind of a panelized assembly, some structural insulated panels. Really well insulated. I think the cost of that roof base versus probably a more normative metal deck is quite a bit. So reevaluating some of the just general building systems that we're planning for, I think it'll just be a cost benefit analysis to what are you really gaining long-term cost out of that versus the upfront costs.
I think what we have for side, we had 15 million that was put on the side doing it, and additional 10 from that ESSER fund.
So it was 15 million is what we're hoping to have set aside. And then what we would do is issue certificates of indebtedness to come up with the other 5 million. So 20 million is what our estimate was last, I believe, spring, summer.
So you're taking out bonds or?
Yep, it would be the certificates of indebtedness would borrow another 5 million.
So that ESSER funds, that were 10 million that put outside, can be used for construction?
What we're doing is we're each time you have the approval of transferring the general fund or other salaries into ESSER, we're actually building up a balance in general fund to move towards this. And our thought is by June, we'll have $15 million available for this project.
But we can draw down until September, right?
Yep. So by that time, I suppose we could probably, through September, maybe another about 750,000, I would say.
If we're gonna do a building, I can't see cutting it out for the kids.
I agree.
So we get $15 million, or if we did a building for 20 million. Make all those cuts and stuff. We're just reducing the size of the building and 2-3 years from now, if phase 2 comes up, it's gonna cost us just as much to get that other 5,000 square feet.
I don't like the idea of cutting anything out of the building, to be honest with you.
Reality is, you may have to cut something,
We can.
flash
cut.
maybe, flash.
Yeah, we can cut, is there like Alan said, some of the flash, like,
Yeah,
I don't wanna take away any of the, because I believe it needs to be as high tech as possible, but it doesn't have to be so flashy, you know what I mean? What is like the expenses, like, what are our top expenses?
As far as building, just full project wise,
As far as like tech,
sure.
instead of taking away the size of the building, the tech part of it.
The tech budget, the all the AV equipment budget as designed in schematic design, was about 1.25 million. And that's a pretty nice, I don't know if we have enough time to pull up the AV presentation, but it's a very good suite of AV technologies. There's probably a little fluff there to reduce it and have generally the same experience in the building. But given that it is the tech-focused discovery center, that doesn't seem like what we want to target. There is a lot of glass. I think there's a lot of opportunity in the building itself to reduce that, still have really good views and daylight and warmth in the space. I think we can look at the way we've planned to build the walls and the roof and save some good money that way. Site development on the north side, I think we can still do a really good entry experience and have a cheaper parking lot. It's just sort of, it'll come out of a lot of spots. Again, it's hard to get down to that 15 million. I think it's pretty reasonable to get down to the 20 and do it in a way that you're not really gonna notice much. Some of the flash in the building too, there's more glass and stuff than you probably typically see, but you do gotta keep in mind as well that the AV and tech heavy spaces really need high performing materials around them to make sure that they're functioning well. So like a lot of the project costs in terms of finishes are like acoustic panels and that sort of thing, which really, support the experience that the AV suite is trying to accomplish as well. So you have to be kind of careful in
You
reducing
wouldn't
that.
wanna be taking that out, you'd wanna be more outside, like you said, maybe replacing some of that glass with solid walls. Would save quite a bit, that's what I hear.
Yeah, there's some other systems that we can look at overall. The mechanical system that's priced in here is a pretty highly efficient system, so there might be some things that we can do there. So I think like what Mitch said, there's going to be a lot of little things that we can adjust. I don't know if there's one big item that we can target and say, okay, we're going to take it all from here.
Yeah. I'd hate to see a stock gray
Yeah.
building or something.
And again, like Mitch said, I think if we take that approach of, pulling a little here and a little there, we can keep the integrity of the design, like I said, reduce some of the flash, but really provide a high functioning and high experience building for you.
I know when we first started discussing this, on the second level, there was gonna be like administration or board. Right now, this boardroom is taking up space because we can probably get another 40 PSN kids in this room right now. But we can't because this is the only place we have to hold our meetings.
Yeah. And so that's some of the questions moving forward. In the design we do have that boardroom. We've also shown you a couple of options that goes away and becomes additional classrooms. So that's part of the conversations through the next few weeks, that program alignment to make sure we're providing you the right spaces.
And you have to have what percentage you have?
3%.
There's also 1% EPA.
On that, Shane, on that freshman academy, that would fit right in there, right?
Correct. Well, we want all of these spaces to be multi-use. So, like he said, blending the vocational, blending the IT, and blending just the normative classroom areas is what we're trying to accomplish.
So do you have Do you have a plan for this? Cause it seems like we're moving from one to the other, or even like as far as staffing is concerned, like thinking about who is scheduling a space for everybody, or, you know, if everybody wants to use it at one time, or vice versa, where there's nobody wanting to use it and somebody who's intentionally like recruiting or saying, oh, we need to upgrade, or maybe this isn't where we are right now, or this is not something that we're doing. Because for example, at the college, we have a studio that at one point in time, they used it. Now it doesn't really get used. So if it's somebody owns it, I mean, owner, but you know what I mean? If that's something that they're interested in, then they recruit and actually
Our
intentionally.
intention, within the freshman academy is that it's used first and foremost for classroom, vocational education, and it's occupied. Now, in the evening hours is where they're coming along with that discovery center type of atmosphere, where people, general public, can come in and use it for manning it, and then they use computers or whatever they need to do. But first and foremost, our students and classroom spaces, what we're trying to accommodate more by saying it's a freshman academy and vocational center versus the old concept where it was discovery center open to the general public all day long. We didn't think that would be very feasible because there wouldn't be that many people using it. And then Brad, Mr. Lattiser prior, Levi, administration, board members that were at the retreat, really looked at the research behind a freshman academy and how that can help so that a wing of freshmen to occupy as well as vocational education, career planning and that kind of thing would be the stock 8 to 4. Then after that would be more of the discovery center type of work.
Going, what's the interest rate right now for the state? 1.3%.
It's right about, what we were told last time, we checked last fall, we should be able to get into something at about 3.8% actual interest. And if we were going to, we even discussed at that time borrowing $7.5 million. That would be right about $600,000 a year would be the payment. Then, on top of that, the estimated cost, I remember this was a real preliminary discussion question, that the cost for utilities in the facility would be a little under $200,000 a year. I believe what was suggested. It should at least be that. So that brings us about $800,000 a year more we would be spending, and then plus from there staff.
Staffing, we're looking at basically how many staff?
Brad, freshman?
Probably 6 to 7 teachers, an administrator, you're gonna need some janitorial staff in there.
That's
Security guard.
help.
Administrator.
So, yeah. You're looking probably 10 staff there today, at least 10, 12.
So it would be another building from 8 to 4.
But we would be using existing staff that we already have.
But then from 4 to 8, and on the weekends, there would be additional staff.
We have event staff now that we get to man the place, take different shifts.
And who would do scheduling and stuff for the community,
First off, or
events or people wanting to rent or use the space? Like a
Probably the
meeting space or
administrator
whatever.
that's located in the building.
like who are the,
And that would be a high school administrator because of the freshmen.
all of the teachers.
We already
We have a million administrators as it is. It just seems to me like every time we turn around, we have an administrator or, we need to put focus, like you said, on our kids. And this building, we're building this building for our kids, so what's best gonna suit our kids, all of our kids.
I think the point that I'm trying to make too is that it's, in my mind, it was intended to be a space where the community feels like they're welcome. And it just, now it seems like it's an additional school. So it's an extension of the school as opposed to a space for the community. Or not even just community, but even parents and families to feel welcome. Because if that was if it's totally shifting, that's kind of my question. Because it just seems like it's just an extension of the high school. at this point.
Yeah. Well, there was a shift because we discussed this at the retreat when they brought up the freshman academy. And then utilization of that, all of that space, I don't see it being utilized all day long. Occupied with that much space all day long. So it'd be
I
best to have
agree.
our students in there.
No, I agree from it. I mean, I think that's true. I know that we don't do a good job with community engagement and family, parent involvement. And so for them to have a space that they feel welcome and that they can utilize. But if at 4:30, everybody leaves, including the administrator, it just becomes another vacant building like the high school. So it'd be like walking to the high
Well,
school.
we kind of envision it being like this event center. We don't have enough space in this center right now because it's used nonstop. And we envision that being the same way.
So you would do the scheduling for that building as well? Because you do it for this one too, don't you?
I have no problem, but I mean, it's just, I would think that the person that's working out there would be able to do that as well.
Gotcha.
We do event staff tickets, we do work staff tickets, so any type of event that we have going on is catered to fairly well. And it's our students that are using this building nonstop, and it'd be the same with that building.
Are we going to be able to keep that total event staff on staff after this year?
Yeah, we anticipated that we'd have a budget for that, Craig.
We're thinking at least for next year.
At least for next year?
Yep. Because it's hard, a lot of this is hard to predict, because keep in mind, what was it, 7 years ago, we had approximately, we were between 700 and 1,800 students here, another almost 300 students at Ojibwa. We were closing in on 2,100. This year, both schools combined were under 1,700. And then on the state side, that's about $10,000 a student.
So, and where are we losing students Across the
Right
board?
across the board.
in every
Yep,
grade level?
because we went back and looked over the last 25 years. Every time there were decreases in enrollment, there was always an increase popping up, on the elementary level. Now it's been 7, 8 years, the elementary level has remained right around in the lower 600s. I believe Shanna reported this morning, there's 614 students in the elementary, whereas a few years ago, we had right about 900 passing in and out. But the thing about it is like what I reverted back to from last year is our increase in the state foundation aid assisted us in avoiding any type of a shortfall. But as going forth in this, what we anticipated was right about maybe a $500,000 a year repayment on that $5 million. And then from there, we anticipated some staffing costs as well as maintenance and utilities of under $500,000, so no more than $1 million. And I guess it's something we would almost have to go through. And then as Dr. Martin stated, what he indicated is use during the day should not cost any additional funds because it's just a reassignment of staff.
And is this modeled after that? Remember the school we went to in Bismarck?
Thanks.
Is this modeled after that? It's similar to their,
Some of the aspects are, yeah. It's kind of like an open canvas.
yeah.
Just another question. For example, like the studio, that's something I was thinking too. What does something like that cost us?
What do you mean by studio?
There was one of the studios you had mentioned that was used for recording and so forth.
Your sound. Oh,
Yeah.
sure, like the
Are
sound and
those
recording.
pretty expensive areas there?
Yeah, I mean, I would say right now, most of the classroom spaces are all on the more expensive side of, I mean, I don't know if it's any more expensive than like equipping the maker space, or like the tech bench areas, but Yeah, I mean, like the sound boards and things cost money. If we decide to go with like a green screen, the cameras and green screen elements and usually those are a big pipe grid with AV lighting and stuff, so they can get really expensive. You can also, just program them down and do it at a budget, but.
See, those are some of the spaces that I really, personally myself, I really believe in the IT areas, but at some point, there's a point of diminishing returns on student use, because there would only be a certain amount of students using those areas, I would think. I guess, Travis, you've been involved with IT quite some time, would you think, or?
I would agree, I think, that would, something that I was gonna discuss, in some of our upcoming meetings is going through all the technology and that building and figuring out if that's still, I know the smart lab area is something we've already purchased, that's already done, but some of these other areas, even to answer some of Terry's questions, I think some of those spaces can be reserved throughout the day for elementary students to come up, if we have like a VR lab. You can have, some of those spaces will accommodate 1 or 2 classrooms, so that they can come in during the day while they're in school, utilize some of that building while you still have enough room to have a freshman academy. The other thing is that the initial design, our initial concept of this building is very much similar to the Discovery Center in mind, if you guys have seen that. I just don't think we can sustain a building technology and a budget for that amount of technology. I think we have to kind of, the 1.2 million, I think, is like mainly for your infrastructure for your technology. So that includes switches, wireless, wiring, all that kind of stuff. If you want additional technology, it wasn't an ever evolving type of building for technology, so it doesn't get stagnant. If you want to be able to switch that out, that requires quite a bit of money, So if we go from a smart lab this year or have it for 2 years, and then you decide you want to switch that out for a new technology, all that new technology requires an extensive amount of not just money, but also training. You got to train staff, and then if you're gonna have this open, it's gonna be more advanced staff. You're gonna need somebody who's trained in these technologies in order to help accommodate the community members coming into the building. So there's a lot entailed in just the technology part. So I think it's a smart decision to try to utilize it as much as possible as a classroom setting throughout the day, and then have spaces in there for our other students in the community areas. Right now we have, just to give you an example, we have our world English class that's a lot of our teachers and people think this would be a great place to get together and have those classes being held, in person. So just things like that.
So I understand you correctly, Travis, so a concern of yours would be that the IT that's in the facility in certain areas would become outdated, say after 5 years or so, and require replacement, or?
Yeah. For sure.
So Travis, as we were going through this, when I'm talking about the community things, I visited a school in Mille Lacs, and when you walk in the school to the left, there's an elders room. And the elders sit in there and they sew and they visit and they speak Ojibwe, like first language speakers, and they're constantly speaking Ojibwe. And like their presence on campus is just, they talk about the impact that it has on the students.
And there are spaces in this building.
That could be, right,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I was thinking. And then also, I know the recording studio, and I use the college as an example, but we always talk about recording our elders' stories and our history within our community. Somebody could take that on, a student group could take that on as a project and actually record stories from some of our elders and store that and keep that for our community. I think that there's a lot of potential. I just want to make sure that we're not excluding people within the community, because there's so much cultural knowledge that we can utilize, or that we can, that can use this space. And the other thing that I will just say, we're really running on a long time, is I like the intentionality about the local space and like the culture and stuff in regards to the materials. But I think that this is just my personal taste, is I'm a little more intentional. Like I like whenever you walk into a space, like Red Lake Tribal College just has a brand new building being built in the Twin Cities. And when you walk in, you know that it's Ojibwe, it's the Red Lake Nation. As opposed to, we would have to like explain, this is gonna look like porcupine quills, or you know what I mean? I get where you were going, But I would love for somebody just to walk in and they could feel it, and they know that this is our space, and that they see how beautiful our culture is, and they wanna ask questions and they wanna learn more. So that's kind of what I was thinking in regards to the decor and the way that, the space looks. Cause right now, to me, it looks like you could take this building and put it in any other community and it would look any different.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think those corresponding, cultural things into the building would be explained at the building. And one of the reasons, I guess one of the impact of Dr. Thomas was that she wanted to bring those ideas into more modern, because it's a technology building,
Yeah.
right? So to make those comparisons and show those things and show how.
But people would have to tell them.
That's what I'm saying, that would be advised, yeah, that would be, there would be some component of that explanation in there. It's all
The other thing, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But the other thing to keep in mind is, we are very, very early in design. So there's a lot of decisions regarding finishes and how exactly the building looks that need a lot of input from you guys. If you recall, Mitch had a slide there talking about partnering with your elders and artist groups. And I think a lot of that, those final decisions will come from those conversations on how exactly, how those are incorporated at what level. Like I said, we want to be respectful of what your culture is, and we're certainly not experts on that. So we'll definitely look toward you on what's the appropriate interpretation of that.
I don't think anything was set in stone.
Yeah.
So I think everything was just kind of explained on how we got to the point we're at right here,
I know you have those deadlines in there, I know, but I don't want to cut anybody off, but we have another meeting after this. So I think my recommendation, let the board members jump in when they want to, is we have a plan in place right now, we'll sit down with the next phase going. We'll try not to cut anything else. So when I look at it, we got 75% of the money that's put on the side. If we're gonna finance, we get a $20 million building for $5 million, it's kind of a no-brainer here. I mean, it's something that we could sit down and look at, because we got 300,000 in the planning stages already. I mean, if we drop this, then we're out $300,000.
What is their budget for the architect?
It's all inclusive in the full amount. I imagine by the time this would be done, a couple million, would you say?
Usually under that, but it's 8% of the construction costs.
But it doesn't help every time we turn around, we're changing it either, because that costs us more money. So I think what we need to do is sit down, decide what we're gonna do, and just go with that. Because every time we have these meetings and we make changes, it's costing us more money, and that's money that can go into the building. So we can sit here all day and talk about it, but we need to get this done.
And the other thing that we've discussed, or with Dr. Martin, is that construction costs keep going up instead of coming down.
I say let's move up to it, and it's my opinion, let's move with the space that we have and make the cuts where we need to. We have the money, we have the money to do it, let's do it.
I don't think any decisions need to be made today.
No, I don't think so, but
Yeah,
every
and-
time,
Right, we weren't
We
expecting
need to
any
start
major
getting- we
decisions
need to
today.
start
I think the only question that I at least would like to come away for is, up to this point, we kind of had that core group that we've been meeting with that include Dr. Thomas and them. So are we continuing with that same group and just substituting Shane in her place? Or is there other decision makers that need to be included? I mean,
who was the group?
So it includes, Dwayne, Kevin, Travis, and Dr. Michelle's core group. Yeah, and then Connie, yep, sorry. So that's essentially the group that we had been meeting with throughout those design meetings, and.
Yeah, only thing would change would be Michelle, but Shane then.
Okay. All right.
So the reason why both Travis and Kevin were involved are because of the technology?
Yeah, because it was such a high, tech building, right? So a lot
I
of.
say we could probably take one of them out of there and put an administrator maybe. Because they are gonna be classrooms. So maybe if you wanna put somebody in planning that's gonna be a part of the freshman academy in there.
Even 100%.
Or just add somebody, because we don't need two ITs.
Jordan. Put Jordan in there.
You gonna be around when it's,
Yeah.
being built?
It's only,
I think you've been committed.
because it won't, yeah, I mean, as long as we have somebody there that's gonna be there from start to finish.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean,
We talked about that.
Considering the price, if it's locked in, you wait another year, it's gonna be 1%.
Well, Elmer said we have the tarot fees, so that's nice. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're speaking for me.
I'm glad you stepped up to the plate, Elmer.
You got it. Anything for the kids.
All kidding aside, that certainly would help.
You probably have a meeting today.
Yeah.
I mean, with the budget that you guys, you're sitting at 20.
Remember?
Yep. I think we're gonna give you some time frame to just digest the information we shared today and let you guys talk operationally on the building more. We have some space modifications we know we need to make for earlier conversation, but to confirm those, like your administrative suite won't be in there, but maybe the boardroom will, I don't know if that's. Well, a couple things we need to get answered. And then from there, the amenities, I think that's the other part. We can dial that in to make sure we keep the budget, preserving the floor plan of the building and making sure it's programmed.
Yeah, I think so. I guess I would just want to make sure that you all feel like you have the information you need to consider what the programming is. We're happy to recompile it. It's easier to just have a list of the spaces and square footages. We can throw that together. I think the first step coming back to designing is going to be reconciling what's in there with the uses of Freshman Academy as well, and just making sure that there are one or two spaces that need to get changed, like if we need to cut.
Are you still looking at that, March and April?
Yeah, I mean, that can all slide. The durations of those spaces will stay the same, but if we start a week or two later or earlier, we can do that whenever. But as you guys are saying, it is beneficial to start so that we don't build up more and more escalation projects.
Nice, understand.
Okay, at this time, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for all the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ask for motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Motion made by Wanda, second by Terry.
Second.
She's doing it out. Makes the most.
Yeah. Motion made by Terry. Second by Wanda.
Wait.
Go.
Oh, that's
They're all black.
Does anyone want? I printed some copies of this. If anyone wants to take them. It's probably not enough for everyone.
Dwayne?
Yeah, Dwayne, you want these?
Oh, sure.
Could,
You do this one in a half hour?
Yeah,
You
nice
guys
to
wanna
see you all.
grab something to eat, something to drink, anything?
Probably, we've got about 9 hours ahead.
Yeah. You have a good safe trip back.
Yeah, thank you.
I know she did.
Is there here? This space. Is so So, but I would really like to read this. Like this out. You want
I think he got warm. So you walked out, I don't know if he's still over here.